We just sold our last van!
And we bought a new one!
Yeah.
We're Logan and Kelleen, and in 2020 we bought our first van and spent the summer building it out into the perfect teeny home.
Although we love how the build turned out, high roof vans are not cheap, and we ended up pulling out a loan to make our dream come true.
I don't know about you guys, but the reason we were drawn to van life was freedom. It was the notion that we aren't just meant to pay bills until we die. It was the dream of living in this great big world and exploring it all without living under anybody's thumb.
Having a loan took away from some of that freedom, so we did the next best thing.
We sold our van and we bought our next project.
No loan, no debtor, just balling on a budget. Kelleen's parents were cool enough to give us some space in their barn while we build out this van.
Follow along for our build, and if you're another van lifer, adventurer, or vagabond, be sure to say hi. Okay, we had to document this moment because this is the emptiest you will ever see this van.
So far we've torn off all the plastic paneling that was on the wall, and we've sealed the floor from any rust.
So we loved our last van, how it turned out. We loved the build. What we know better now in retrospect is that we could have made the actual building process so much smoother and more efficient.
We made some common mistakes in the last build that we'll be correcting, and today in this video you'll get to see that.
Hopefully this helps anyone out there who's also building a van, learning off of YouTube videos. Let's talk step 1 on a new van, framing and studs.
The last time we installed framing, we placed wood along the pre-existing metal ribs. This worked, but made it a pain in the butt to find the studs once they were covered up, which you can imagine made anchoring things like cabinets really tricky. For this build, you can already see what we're doing differently. We're installing floor-to-ceiling studs, spaced as evenly as possible. This way we know exactly where the anchor points are. Alright, so we're sticking these in these holes. They go down pretty deep, and that way it has a little bit of something to go against. We're going to rivet it to these two metal cross beams, and it'll kind of bend. We're doing 3/4 inch, well basically a 2x4 cut in half. With the cost of lumber so high, over doubled since our last build, we found it was much cheaper to buy 2x4s and then cut them in half rather than buying 1x4s. We got our studs here. They're about a foot across in between each stud, and they're 3.5 inches wide. So we'll be able to screw all of those. There's a couple odd spots, like right here. You can see this metal interrupts the correct spacing. It's not a problem. We'll just note that there's a greater gap between these studs. Rivets are awesome. Last time we used wood to metal screws and had a ton of issues with them. For some reason they weren't grabbing, and when they did, they didn't support the wood very well. Essentially, rivets work like a clamp. The gun pulls a ball through the back, which expands the metal. And when it's clamped tight, the nail-like piece breaks off. They're strong, mount flush, and they're easy to use.
So with the last van, for all the wiring, we didn't do it till after installation and after putting up our studs. So the wire just kind of ran over all of it, making it really likely that we were to puncture it with a nail or a staple when we were putting things up. So this time we learned. As you can see up here, everything is duct taped right now right against the van. And we made these things, for example, this is going to be a light. We made it extra long. The insulation should only come down to here, but just in case, and we're going to mask this off to make sure this does not get spray foam insulated. So that will all be covered up. We have our lights as well as some of our chargers wired up. We have a few more things to run, and right now we're bringing it all over to this corner. This is where we'll have a bench, and when we flip it up, our batteries and our fuse panel will be there. So we're marking everything. This is our outlets, our lights, and our fridge is all wired up. We're going to wire a couple more things, so we'll go ahead and put a time lapse so you can see us running the wire, and let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, sorry, the lighting kind of sucks. It's nighttime. This is the last project of the day. I just wanted to show you how we're going to do this stud right here. It's a little bit different. The window's in the way. We just got the windows done, and if you want to see a video on that, just leave a comment in the descriptions. We might explain a little bit more on that. I'm going to take this wood here, and I'm going to rivet it into place just like that. So then we can have a nice window sill. We can anchor stuff to here, and then we'll put another piece right here. First off, I want to measure and make sure that this is square. I'll take a speed square and mark it all the way across. Right now we're on some uneven ground, so if I had put a level above the wood, it's going to be all off. So we're going to make sure that it's square to the van and not to the ground below.
Alright guys, we interrupt your video to do a light bulb change. My dad insists this is easier than getting a ladder, so luckily he's very skilled with the tractor, so we're not too nervous about it being right over the van windshield, but he handled it fine and we have a nice bright light now, so shout out to my dad. In our last van, we thought the best way to get the installation done right and really well was to do it ourselves. So we used foam board, fiberglass, open cell spray foam, basically everything we could think to use in all the cracks and crevices. It ended up taking us 2 weeks to get this done, and it didn't save us any money compared to getting it professionally done like we did this time.
So we're on our way to the installation place. This place was able to get us in within a week's notice, which is nice. Everywhere else was about 4 weeks out. So Kelleen's driving one car, I'm driving the other, and we'll be there in about an hour.
We are in a very small town in Arizona. Like, I used to think we had a blinking stoplight, but my brother recently informed me that that doesn't exist. So there's not a lot of services or stores here.
We were worried at first about the closed down insulation warping our van, and we were talking to these guys about it, and they were basically explaining that if we parked it in the shop and had it warmed up on the outside and the inside, the same temperature as the material they spray down, then it won't warp. It'll just it'll balance itself out.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm just a little bit nervous about dropping our van off. We have always done all the work on our vans ourselves. Our last one and this one, everything we've been able to figure out. We've never once dropped it off to anyone and just been like, good luck, I hope you do a good job. So this is a little nerve-wracking, a little different, just to bring it to a company and drop it off and come back a few hours later. That being said, it blows my mind how fast this process will be compared to last time. Last time we spent 2 weeks, which we only spent 2 months total working on this van. So that's a fourth of our work time was insulation. So we spent 2 weeks working on just insulation, whereas this time it'll take maybe 2 hours. We're gonna drop it off, we're gonna go get some breakfast and maybe do some rock climbing, and then we're gonna come back and our van will be done and ready to drive home.
Wish us luck. We'll be getting it done and show you how it works out.
Here's to hoping. Alright guys, we are here at Fox Insulation. Logan's just kind of showing them the inside the van, where we want spray foamed and where we don't. Van is in the shop, and while we're killing time, we're picking up some tongue and groove for what's going to be our ceiling in the van. And I just want to talk about this 70% off coal car. I think every Home Depot has one. The lumber is usually a little warped or kind of broken, but honestly, 70% off, sign us up. We can make it work.
We just picked the van up. It's all insulated.
Now we're going to go ahead and take a look. Alright guys, here she is in all her insulated beauty. Let us know what you think. We love it so far.
We're super excited about it. It saved us a ton of time, and they scraped it all good for us. It's a higher R value. Overall, I'm just super happy.
At this point, it's ready for us to just slap on some plywood, start getting the van ready. We're excited how quick that made this process.
That's it for this video.
Let us know if you want other videos from us. We did record doing our solar panels and the windows, so expect those coming up in the next week or two.
Absolutely. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments and we'll get back to you.
Until then, happy van lifing.
Peace.